When my brother called me at 2:13 in the morning, I already knew someone was dead. That was how it worked in Black Hollow. Nobody called after midnight unless something terrible had happened, and nobody in my family called me at all unless they had run out of people who still answered. I let it ring 3 times, then 4, then 5. The screen lit my bedroom ceiling pale blue. Caleb. I had not seen my brother in 11 years. The last time, he was standing in our mother's driveway with blood on his shirt, screaming at me to get in the car. I was 17. He was 21. Our father was inside the house, and our mother was upstairs pretending not to hear us. I did not get in the car. Caleb left without me. By morning, everyone in Black Hollow knew he had disappeared. By afternoon, they knew why. By evening, they had decided whose fault it was. Mine. The phone stopped ringing. For a moment, I thought that was it. Then a text came through. She looks like Ellie. I sat up so fast the room tilted. Another message appeared. Do not call the police. Then another. Come home. I stared at the words until they stopped looking like words. Ellie had been dead for 14 years. At least, that was what everyone said. Her full name was Eleanor Voss. She was 12 years old. My best friend. My neighbor. The only person in Black Hollow who knew how much I hated that town and how badly I wanted to leave it. She vanished the summer before 8th grade. 3 days later, they found her shoes in the creek. 1 week later, they found her backpack in the woods. 2 months later, they held a funeral with an empty coffin because Black Hollow had already decided the story needed an ending. A drifter took her. A bad man passing through. A stranger. That was always the easiest kind of monster to believe in. No one ever looked hard at the people who lived there. I called Caleb back. He answered before the first ring finished. For a few seconds, all I heard was wind. Then his voice. Mara. My name sounded wrong in his mouth. Older. Smaller. Like he had been practicing it alone for years. Where are you? I asked. Old Mill Road. I stood up and started pulling clothes from the floor. What happened? He did not answer. Caleb. She's in the ditch by the culvert. Who? He breathed into the phone. Then he said, I don't know. You said she looks like Ellie. She does. That's impossible. I know. Then why did you say it? His voice cracked. Because she's wearing Ellie's necklace. I stopped moving. The room went completely silent around me. Ellie had a necklace she never took off. A little silver moth on a thin chain. Her mother gave it to her before she died. Ellie used to say moths were better than butterflies because they were honest about being drawn to things that could kill them. They never found that necklace. Not in the creek. Not in the woods. Not in the backpack. Not anywhere. I sat down on the edge of my bed. Mara, Caleb said, You need to come now. Why me? The wind shifted on his end of the call. For a second, I heard something else. A soft sound. Not crying. Not breathing. A wet clicking noise. Then Caleb whispered. Because she had your name in her mouth. The line went dead. I drove through the night. Black Hollow was 4 hours away, if you stayed on the highway. 3.5 if you drove like you were being chased. I made it in 3. The town sat in the southeast corner of Ohio, folded into a valley, so deep the sun always seemed to arrive late and leave early. The old coal roads twisted through the hills like veins. Half the houses were built before anyone in them was born. The other half looked like they were slowly giving up. As I passed the welcome sign, my headlights dragged across the words, Black Hollow, a good place to come home to. Someone had spray painted beneath it in red. Not for long. The paint looked fresh. Old Mill Road was exactly as I remembered it. Narrow. No shoulder. Trees leaning in from both sides. At the bottom of the hill, the road crossed a drainage culvert where rainwater from the woods emptied into a ditch before running down toward the creek. That was where I saw Caleb. He stood beside his truck with both doors open, headlights aimed into the ditch. For a second, I did not recognize him. He was thinner than I remembered. His beard had grown and patchy, and dark around his jaw. His hair was longer. There were lines in his face that did not belong to a man in his early 30s. He turned when my car pulled up. We looked at each other across the headlights. 11 years. No hug. No smile. Just my brother standing at the edge of the road like a ghost who had gotten tired of haunting quietly. "You came," he said. "You called." His eyes moved past me toward the road, then into the trees. "You weren't followed?" "By who?" He did not answer. I got out of the car. The air smelled like mud, rain, and something coppery underneath. Caleb looked down at the ditch. I followed his gaze. The girl lay half in the water. She was on her back, one arm twisted beneath her. Her hair spread in the shallow runoff like black thread. She looked maybe 19, maybe younger. Her skin was pale from the cold. Her lips were parted. Her eyes were open, staring at nothing. There was a deep bruise around her throat. I covered my mouth. Caleb looked away. "She wasn't here when I drove past at midnight," he said. "How do you know?" "Because I checked." That was the first thing he said that made no sense. I crouched near the ditch, careful not to slide down the muddy bank. The girl's face was not Ellie's. Not exactly, but it was close enough to hurt. The shape of the nose, the sharp little chin, the dark hair, the same slight gap between her front teeth. And around her neck, half hidden under the bruising, was a silver moth necklace. I felt something inside me go cold. "Who is she?" "I don't know." "You called me before the police?" "I told you not to call them." "There's a dead girl in a ditch, Caleb." He looked at me then, really looked, and for one awful second, he was 21 again, covered in blood in our mother's driveway. "Do you think I don't know that?" I stood. "What have you been doing here?" He wiped both hands down his face. "I came back 2 weeks ago." "To Black Hollow?" He nodded. "Why?" "Because I got a letter." "From who?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded envelope. No stamp, no return address. Just his name written in block letters. Caleb Vale. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The message was typed. "You left one behind." I read it 3 times. "What does that mean?" Caleb took the letter back. "I thought it meant you." "Me?" "You were the one I didn't take with me." His voice flattened. "The night I left." I swallowed. "What happened that night?" He looked toward the woods. For a moment, I thought he might finally tell me. Then red and blue lights washed over the trees. A police cruiser rolled slowly around the bend. Caleb went still. "Did you call them?" he asked. "No." The cruiser stopped behind my car. Sheriff Jonah Pike stepped out. Of course it was Pike. Black Hollow had a way of preserving its worst men in authority. When I was a kid, he had been Deputy Pike. Big arms, thick neck, always chewing gum, always smiling like he knew something humiliating about you. Now he was older, whiter, balder. But the smile was the same. He looked at me first, then Caleb, then the ditch. "Well," he said, "look who finally came home." Caleb did not speak. Pike rested one hand on his belt. "Mara Vale," he said. "Been a long time." "Not long enough." His smile widened. He liked that. Men like Pike always liked it when you showed teeth, because it gave them an excuse to show theirs. He walked to the edge of the ditch and looked down. For once, the smile vanished. "Jesus," Caleb said. "We found her like this." "Did you?" I stepped between them. "My brother called me. I just got here." Pike looked at my car, then at me. "From Columbus?" "Yes." "That's a long drive for a family reunion. There's a dead girl in a ditch." "There sure is." He crouched, shining his flashlight over the body. When the light touched the necklace, his hand stopped, just for a second. But I saw it. So did Caleb. Pike stood up. "Both of you stay right here." He walked back to his cruiser and radioed it in. Caleb leaned toward me and whispered, "He knows." "Knows what?" "That necklace." Everyone knew Ellie's necklace. "No," Caleb said. "Not like that." Before I could ask what he meant, Pike returned. He told us backup was coming. He told us not to leave. He told us to keep our hands visible. Even though neither of us had moved toward him, within 20 minutes, Old Mill Road was full of lights, deputies, an ambulance, 2 volunteer firefighters who looked too young to be seeing anything that would follow them into sleep. Nobody talked much. That was the thing about small-town crime scenes. Everyone knew too much about everyone else to ask clean questions. A deputy took my statement. Another took Caleb's. Pike watched us both. After the body was loaded into the ambulance, he walked over and said, "You two need to come down to the station." "Are we under arrest?" I asked. "No." "Then I'll follow in my own car." His eyes moved to Caleb. "Fine." Caleb pulled me aside before we left. "Don't trust anyone here." I almost laughed. I grew up here. That's why I said it. The sheriff's station was next to the courthouse, across from the diner, under a row of dead flags that snapped in the early morning wind. Inside, it smelled like coffee, disinfectant, and old paper. They separated us. Of course they did. A deputy put me in a small interview room with a metal table and a camera in the corner. The walls were yellowed. Someone had scratched a cross into the table with a key or a nail. I waited for almost an hour. Then Detective Lena Ortiz came in. That was the first surprise. I remembered Lena. She had been 3 years ahead of me in school. Quiet, smart, always carrying books. Her father ran the auto shop before he drank himself to death. Her mother cleaned houses for half the people in town. Now she wore a dark blazer over a plain shirt, her hair tied back, eyes sharp and tired. She closed the door. "Ma, Lena, I go by Detective Ortiz in here. Then I want a lawyer." She paused. Then, very faintly, smiled. "Good. You got smarter." "I was always smart. You were 17 and angry. I can be both." The smile disappeared. She sat across from me and opened a folder. "For the record, you are not under arrest. For the record, this room says otherwise. You're here because your brother found a body. My brother says he found a body. You don't believe him? I don't know what I believe." Lena watched me for a moment. "You want coffee?" "No." "Water?" "No." "Answers?" "Yes." She looked at the folder. "We don't have an ID yet." "You will." Her eyes flicked up. "Why do you say that?" "Because someone put Ellie Voss's necklace on her." Lena did not react. That was when I realized she already knew. "You remember Ellie's necklace?" she asked. "Everyone remembers it." "Not everyone." Pike did. Lena leaned back. "You noticed that?" "Yes." She closed the folder. "Mara, why did your brother call you?" I told her. All of it. The text, the ditch, the letter. Her expression changed when I mentioned the letter. "You saw it?" "Yes." "Do you still have it?" "Caleb does." Lena looked toward the mirror on the wall. I turned. "Is Pike behind that?" "No." "You're lying." "Yes." That surprised me enough to shut me up. Lena lowered her voice. "Listen to me carefully. I am going to ask you one question, and I need you to answer without trying to protect anyone. Okay. The night your brother disappeared, did you see him kill your father?" My mouth went dry. For 11 years, nobody had said it that directly to me. They all talked around it. The incident, the fight, what happened at the house, your brother's trouble. But not that. Not kill. I looked down at the scratched cross in the table. "No." Lena waited. "I saw blood." I said. "I saw Caleb. I saw my father on the kitchen floor." "Alive?" "I don't know." "You told police you didn't see Caleb hurt him." "Because I didn't." "But everyone believed he did. Everyone wanted to." Lena said nothing. I looked at her. "Did he?" "I'm asking you." "No," I said. It came out sharper than I expected. "No, I don't think he did." "Why?" "Because my father was cruel. Because my father had enemies. Because my mother never cried. Because Caleb looked scared that night, not guilty. Because when he screamed at me to get in the car, he wasn't running from what he had done. He was running from what he had seen. But I did not say any of that, I said. Because Caleb would have taken credit. Lena almost smiled again. Then someone knocked on the door. She stood. Stay here. The moment she left, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. The camera in the corner clicked. The red recording light went out. A sheet of paper slid under the door. I stared at it. Then I stood slowly and picked it up. It was old notebook paper. Yellowed. Folded once. There were 5 words written in pencil. Mara Vale died in 2009. I read it. Then read it again. My skin prickled from my neck to my wrists. 2009 was the year Ellie vanished. The door opened. Lena stepped in. Her eyes went to my hand. What is that? I handed her the paper. She read it. Her face changed. Not confusion. Recognition. You've seen this before, I said. She folded the paper and put it in her pocket. No, Lena. She looked at me. Do not say anything about this to Pike. Why? Because he will call it evidence. It is evidence. No, she said. It's bait. Before I could answer, shouting erupted down the hall. Caleb. I knew his voice instantly. Lena ran out. I followed. 2 deputies were trying to hold my brother against the wall. Pike stood in front of him, red-faced, one hand on his taser. Caleb was laughing, not because anything was funny, because something in him had finally snapped loose. You knew her, he shouted. Pike stepped closer. Caleb, calm down. You knew her name before anyone told you. Put him in holding. Caleb's eyes found mine. Mara. One deputy twisted his arm. Caleb shouted. Ask him about the moths. Pike hit him. Not hard enough to knock him down. Hard enough to make the hallway go silent. Lena stepped forward. Sheriff. Pike turned on her. Back off. She did not. For a second, everyone stood frozen. Then Pike looked at me and smiled. Your brother's unstable. I looked at Caleb. Blood ran from his lip. He smiled at me through it. Ask him, Caleb said again. Then the deputies dragged him away. Lena took my arm and pulled me into an empty office. What moths? I asked. She shut the door. Mara, you need to leave town. No, you need to leave right now. Not without Caleb. He is not your problem. He is my brother. He may be the only reason you are still alive. The room seemed to shift. What does that mean? Lena rubbed both hands over her face. For a second, she no longer looked like a detective. She looked like the girl from school who used to sit alone at lunch and draw maps of places she would never go. When Ellie disappeared, she said, there were things in the file that never went public. What things? She hesitated. Then she opened a locked cabinet and pulled out a thin folder. The label on the tab was old. Voss, Eleanor. She spread several photographs on the desk. My stomach turned. Ellie's backpack. Ellie's shoes. The creek bank. The woods. And then one photo I had never seen. A tree trunk carved with dozens of small moth shapes. Each one had a name underneath. Some were old enough that the letters had been swallowed by bark. Some were fresh. I leaned closer. I saw Yelalai. Below it, Caleb. Below that, in letters cut deep, Mara. I backed away. What is this? Lena's voice was barely above a whisper. We found the tree 2 days after Ellie vanished. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because by the time we went back with a forensic team, it was gone. What do you mean gone? I mean the whole tree was gone. Cut at the base. Hauled out. That's impossible. Yes. I looked at the photo again. There were at least 30 names. Maybe more. Who are they? Missing people. Runaways. Accidents. Suicides. Some from Black Hollow. Some from towns nearby. I found one name near the edge of the picture. Harold Vale. My father. The room went quiet. Lena saw me see it. Mara? What the hell is this? I don't know. Don't lie to me again. I don't know what it is, she said. But I know your family is in the middle of it. I looked at the photo until the moths blurred. Then I noticed something else. At the top of the tree, carved larger than all the others, was a phrase. We return what we borrow. I felt suddenly cold. The office phone rang. Lena ignored it. It rang again. Then again. Finally she picked up. Ortiz. She listened. Her face drained. What? A pause. When? Another pause. She looked at me. Then she hung up. What happened? I asked. She opened her mouth. But no words came out at first. Then she said, "The body is gone." I stared at her. The girl from the ditch? Lena nodded. Gone from where? The morgue. How does a body disappear from the morgue? It didn't disappear. Her hand tightened around the phone. It walked out. At that exact moment, every light in the sheriff's station went out. The building dropped into darkness. Somewhere down the hall, someone screamed. Then Caleb began laughing again. Long, loud, wild, and from the dark behind the office door, a girl's voice whispered my name. Not Mara, not Miss Vale. The name Ellie used to call me when we were children. The name no one else knew. Moth. Lena reached for her gun. The whisper came again. Closer this time. Moth, I found you. The door handle turned. And on the other side, something began to knock. 3 soft knocks, just like it had been taught.